Imagine going to sleep in one of the largest cities in the world, and waking up to discover that your entire neighborhood is on fire. The streets are filled with smoke. People are screaming. Church bells are ringing. Families are running through the darkness carrying whatever possessions they can save. Behind them, a giant wall of flames is swallowing everything in its path. For 4 terrifying days, one of the greatest cities on earth burned almost completely to the ground. This is the incredible true story of the Great Fire of London. To understand how this disaster happened, we need to travel back more than 350 years. The year is 1666. London was already one of the most important cities in Europe. More than 400,000 people lived there. Merchants from around the world arrived every day. Ships filled the River Thames. Markets were crowded. Businesses were thriving. But hidden beneath the city's success was a dangerous problem. Most buildings were made of wood. The streets were extremely narrow. Many houses leaned toward each other from opposite sides of the road. In some places, neighbors could almost shake hands from their upper windows. The city was beautiful, but it was also a giant fire trap. And during the summer of 1666, London experienced unusually dry weather. Wooden buildings became even easier to ignite. Nobody knew it at the time, but the city was waiting for a disaster. That disaster began shortly after midnight on September 2, 1666. In a small bakery owned by Thomas Fariner on Pudding Lane, a fire suddenly broke out. At first it seemed like a normal accident. Fires were common during that period. People expected it to be controlled quickly, but they underestimated the danger. Strong winds were blowing through London that night. The flames spread rapidly from the bakery to nearby buildings. Within minutes, several homes were burning. Residents woke to the smell of smoke and the sound of crackling wood. Many rushed outside in confusion. Others remained asleep, unaware of the danger approaching. As the fire grew larger, panic began spreading through the streets. Families grabbed valuables and fled. Some carried money. Others carried food. Many carried children. Few realized just how serious the situation would become. As dawn arrived, the fire continued growing. The strong winds acted like a giant bellows, feeding oxygen into the flames. Burning pieces of wood flew through the air and landed on rooftops far away. New fires appeared throughout the city. Soon entire streets were burning. The Lord Mayor of London was informed about the disaster. Some officials suggested demolishing buildings to create fire breaks. By destroying houses ahead of the fire, they hoped to stop its advance. Unfortunately, precious time was lost. The flames continued spreading faster than authorities could react. By the second day, London was facing a catastrophe unlike anything in its history. Thousands of people were now homeless. The fire consumed shops, warehouses, churches, and homes. Many residents fled toward the River Thames. Boats became crowded with desperate families seeking safety. Others pushed carts loaded with possessions through packed streets. Traffic jams formed everywhere. People desperately tried to save their belongings. Some carried furniture. Some carried clothing. Others carried cages filled with pets. The city was descending into chaos. As the fire spread, enormous clouds of black smoke covered the sky. The sun appeared red through the haze. Ash rained down across London. Witnesses described seeing flames taller than church towers. The heat became unbearable. Even people standing far away could feel it on their faces. Then came one of the most devastating moments. The fire approached St. Paul's Cathedral. At the time, St. Paul's was one of London's most important landmarks. Many people believed its massive stone walls would protect it. Some residents even stored belongings inside, believing the cathedral was safe. They were wrong. Scaffolding surrounding parts of the building caught fire. Soon the cathedral itself was burning. Thousands watched in horror as flames consumed one of London's greatest treasures. The collapse of St. Paul's shocked the entire city. If even the cathedral could burn, nowhere was safe. By the third day, the Great Fire had become unstoppable. Huge sections of London were already destroyed. Entire neighborhoods disappeared. Businesses vanished overnight. Families lost everything they owned. The fire roared day and night. Witnesses described the sound as being similar to a giant storm. The crackling of burning wood mixed with the collapse of buildings. Every few minutes another structure crashed into the flames. People feared the entire city would be erased from the map. King Charles II became directly involved in the emergency response. He ordered stronger measures to stop the fire. Buildings were finally demolished on a large scale to create fire breaks. Gunpowder was used to destroy structures ahead of the advancing flames. These drastic actions began slowing the fire's progress. At the same time, winds gradually weakened. For the first time since the disaster began, there was hope. After 4 days of destruction, the Great Fire of London finally started losing strength. The flames that had terrorized the city began dying out. People cautiously returned to inspect the damage. What they found was heartbreaking. Large parts of London had been completely destroyed. More than 13,000 houses were gone. Hundreds of streets had vanished. Dozens of churches were destroyed. Government buildings, businesses, and landmarks were reduced to ashes. An estimated 70,000 people became homeless. The economic damage was enormous. Entire fortunes disappeared. Businesses that had taken decades to build were gone forever. The city looked like a war zone. Smoke still drifted through the ruins. Burned foundations marked places where homes once stood. Families searched desperately for surviving possessions. Many found nothing. Yet despite the devastation, something remarkable happened. London refused to die. Almost immediately, plans for rebuilding began. Architects proposed new designs. City leaders introduced stricter building regulations. Wooden structures were gradually replaced with brick and stone. Wider streets were created. Fire safety became a major priority. The disaster that nearly destroyed London ended up transforming it. The rebuilt city became stronger and safer than before. Many historians believe the Great Fire helped shape modern London. The lessons learned from the tragedy influenced urban planning for generations. Today, millions of people walk through London without realizing what happened beneath their feet, more than 3 centuries ago. Modern buildings stand where ashes once covered the ground. Busy streets exist where flames once raged. Life continues. But the memory of the Great Fire remains one of the most important chapters in British history. It began in a small bakery. It spread through narrow streets. It destroyed thousands of homes. It changed countless lives. And it transformed one of the world's greatest cities forever. The Great Fire of London reminds us how quickly disaster can strike. But it also reminds us of something equally powerful: human resilience. The ability to rebuild after unimaginable loss. The determination to move forward when everything seems gone. London lost much during those 4 terrible days. But it gained something too. A chance to start again. And from those ashes, a stronger city emerged. More than 350 years later, the story still fascinates historians around the world. Because it is not simply a story about fire. It is a story about survival. A story about courage. And a story about how an entire city rose from destruction to become greater than ever before. If you enjoyed this historical story, subscribe to the Story Files for more incredible true stories, forgotten disasters, historical mysteries, and unbelievable events from the past. Because sometimes the most unbelievable stories are the ones that actually happened.